Can life have meaning without a god is the video we're looking at today. And, who can really say what the answer is going to be? It's so hard to predict from that title. It really could go any direction.
There's something we need to talk about.
I don't think there's ever been a single thing in any one of the videos I've ever responded to that we needed to talk about. But that's okay. I'm all about doing stuff I don't need to do.
A thought that not many people like to entertain. Look, here's the reality. If there is no God in this world, if God does not exist, nothing matters.
What a novel assertion. I haven't heard that multiple times recently in videos I responded to. Give me a break, alright? There's only so many things you can talk about. But then again, apparently, this time we need to talk about it, so that's my excuse. To be fair, it's not entirely baseless to say that either. I've had a fair number of people tell me they struggled with questions like this after deconverting, so apparently talking about this even multiple times is something that provides people with at least some value. So why does nothing matter?
Because if there is no creator, what is the difference really between a human being and a plant outside, or a rock, or dust itself?
Are you asking that seriously? Do you want me to start enumerating differences between humans, plants, and rocks? Because if I start doing that, I can go all day, obviously. But of course, I understand that the point of the question is, what is the difference in value between a human, a plant, and a rock? And that's a pretty easy answer. Humans care about humans, not plants and rocks usually. Plants and rocks are of use to us, and sometimes they can even be of emotional importance to us, but typically not as much as other people, because we're social beings that form bonds with beings that can communicate and have a relationship with us. Same reason why, to a lesser extent, we form relationships with dogs and cats. So anyone got a guess so far as to where this video's going? My money's on none of that matters, because it doesn't last forever, and so who cares now? If that's not where we're headed, I'll be shocked.
From dust we have really come, and to dust we will return. You'll one day be buried in a grave, and your body will disintegrate, and you will become part of this earth. And
yeah, by the way, I've said this in Patreon hangouts multiple times. I don't think I've ever said it in a video. But for me, ideally, I would love to be composted after I'm dead. You know, there's always all these attempts made to make the decomposition process as slow as humanly possible. And I don't know why people do that, want that. Personally, I like the idea of just being buried in some rich soil under a tree, so my body decomposes as quick as possible, and all my nutrients get back into the food chain as quick as possible. It just seems much more efficient and sensible to me. Kind of a tangent, sorry. But it's interesting what you said there. Your body will disintegrate and you will become part of this earth. I'm already part of this earth. I'm as much a part of it now as I will be then. It's just that right now my body retains some amount of material to keep it intact and functional. Maybe that's a bit of a nitpicky objection, but I also feel like saying I'll become part of this earth is a nitpicky distinction, so I think we're both at fault here.
And everything you've ever done, no matter how great or how small, all of it will be forgotten.
Yeah, it'll be forgotten, and it won't matter to people who live 10,000 years from now. What do I care? I don't know them. What am I trying to impress them? A bunch of random strangers? Frankly, I don't much care if what matters to me matters to others. I don't care if the stuff that I'm interested in or spend my time doing matters to you right now. Which, by the way, it probably doesn't. Are you proposing this should be a problem for me? Because your opinion is not a problem for me, nor is the opinion of someone a million years in the future.
All of it will eventually come to nothing. Your name will be forgotten. Because ultimately, everyone who's ever known you will pass away, and everything you've ever done, even if you were an Elon Musk, or even if you were a man of great influence, over time, even your accomplishments will come to nothing, because, well, this world will not be lasting forever.
Yeah, most of what I accomplish on a day-to-day basis pretty much comes to nothing within my lifetime. A lot of it comes to nothing within a month. Sometimes it comes to nothing by the next day. Ooh, how awful! I should just give up and do nothing. And if anyone asks why I'm a slovenly, lazy trash pile of a person, I'll just say, well, this guy on YouTube told me that if eventually things I do are forgotten, it doesn't matter if I do them at all. And if I do the dishes right now, I probably won't even remember that next week. So, fuck everything.
Without a God, there is no value either. There's no value to you as a person.
I value me. My family seems to, too. So do my friends. To some extent, I think my viewers do too, at least enough to sit and watch one of my videos. Sometimes they even toss me some of their actual money as a tip that they could use to buy food or luxuries otherwise. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like there's some value to me. In fact, to be honest, I feel very, very fortunate to be as valued by people as I am. I'm kind of surprised by it every day. Thanks, by the way. And by the way, if your position is not as fortunate on this front as mine is, if you're buying into this guy's nihilistic bullshit, if you feel like nobody else values you, for one thing, that's probably not true. But remember, the first thing I said about my value as a person is I value myself. You can live on a desert island and not have seen or heard from anyone in 20 years and still have value as a person. Even if you're down on yourself, the fact that you're here shows that you have some amount of value for yourself even so, against all protestations. And if you really feel down like that, the number one thing you should be doing is building yourself for yourself. Building up your value for yourself. And that can be tricky because for a lot of people it can feel like there's a lot to fix. It can be overwhelming to even figure out where to start, which is why you got to start with something small. Picking one very small thing that doesn't require months of work to pay off, something you can do in a matter of minutes or a couple hours maybe, and improving that, and then improving something else the next day. And over time, these very small changes add up. And it turns out that you've made a big change that might have taken months, but instead of doing it over the course of months with one big payoff at the end, which is very hard psychologically, you've done it in a bunch of little steps with little payoffs day by day. At least that's how I've done it in the past, and it's worked amazingly well.
What determines your value? What makes you valuable? What makes you more valuable than the dust that I can pick up outside and let go and it just goes into the air and disappears, right?
So what's the assertion then? If people live forever, you give a shit. But if they don't, then you cease to value them any more than dust in the wind. Your momentary day-to-day interactions with people matter as long as that person lives forever after you talk to them. But if they don't live forever, then that moment didn't matter. Is that the assertion? I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around this and comprehend it in some way that it doesn't sound completely stupid. But no matter which way I think about it, it sounds completely stupid.
Like, what makes us of any value, of any purpose, and here's the thing.
You seem very distressed by this thought. You actually believe what you're saying, don't you? Damn, dude. It's kind of sad. I hope you figure out someday that your value comes from more than just the length of your lifespan. What a bizarre metric to use. I mean, it's honestly kind of similar to saying, like, you matter if you're infinitely large, but you don't matter if you're the size you are, because if you're just the size you are, then you can't be caressed by every single person on this planet and every other planet in the universe, and therefore none of them will know that you even exist. Just like the people in the future won't know you exist if you don't have infinite lifespan. How could I even survive not being infinitely huge? Wait, but the issue with the future thing is that not everyone who ever lives will know that you lived, right? Like, no matter how famous or influential you are, at some point, everyone alive will not know who you are, at some point in the future. And the issue is, now you're forgotten, and from that point on, nobody knows you. And that's a problem? Because having people know who you are is critically important to your life right now for some reason. And if those people then won't have heard of you, then it's not legitimate for anything in your life right now to matter to you. But if you have an infinite lifespan, are you like guaranteed to meet every other person who ever lives? To know that every single person exists? I mean, at least the ones that go to hell you won't know, right? Do you believe in hell? I'm just assuming. But also, are you like talking to every single person in heaven? I mean, I feel like if you want to, you could choose to spend eternity off on your own just talking to God or whatever. Do you have to talk to everyone else? Because like if not everyone who ever lives knows you exist, then you don't matter? I'm sorry, I'm just really confused by this entire premise.
Nothing really matters. And because nothing really matters, I don't know about you, but that's really depressing.
I don't even know what really matters means. I mean, plenty of things matter to plenty of people. Surely you'll acknowledge that people value a lot of different things that don't last forever. Things that will break down and cease to exist at some point, events that won't last forever, pets that presumably don't have souls and won't go to heaven. These things matter to people, but here you are saying nothing really matters, so what's the distinction? To me, all it means for something to really matter is that somebody actually has it in their head that it matters. You know, somebody really has this feeling about it, it's an actual phenomenon happening in their brain, so to them it really matters. I don't even understand what it would mean for something to matter in another sense than that, some sense outside of the human mind. How much something matters is a matter of a person's opinion about it. It's not some objective quantity or parameter.
In fact, even if you were a celebrity, you had all the money in the world, you could spend it on as much pleasure as you want, because you could tell me, well, Petey, all that I have is pleasure. I can enjoy life. That's something. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But even those who have great wealth, who are able to buy as much pleasure as money can buy, you find them over and over. They think they're on top of the world, right? They've reached all their dreams and hopes and goals, but yet after receiving it all, they still feel empty. They still feel depressed. They still feel the need to go into bondages, to take drugs, to drink themselves to death, to indulge in things that destroy them, and they still feel suicidal. And their life is a wreck.
Okay, I'll accept your example. I bet it matters to those people that their life is a wreck. I bet the fact that they have to live through it matters to them. I bet a person in that situation wishes that they could find something that matters to them a little bit more than drugs and alcohol and fast cars, if they're really so upset about it. You know, I've heard celebrities bitch and moan before about how nobody's really their friend. Anyone they end up in a relationship with is usually some kind of a gold digger, and basically that they wish that they could just exist on normal terms with other people. Now, of course, I'm not sure how sincere any of this sentiment is. It probably varies from person to person. But it is interesting how a fair number of these people seem to see through the materialistic pleasure aspect of it and long for just human connection. I'm not surprised. To me, that seems very in line with our evolutionary history. It's all well and good to have all the toys you want, but if there's nobody to share them with, what's the point? And as you say, that kind of thing seems to matter to them. I would bet that a really sincere friend would probably matter as well, much more than some cars and drugs. Of course, on the other hand, there are some people who apparently are perfectly satisfied just doing drugs and driving fast cars. I guess that's what matters to them, at least for now. To be honest, I have a lot of trouble believing that most people can keep that up their whole life and maintain their sanity. It's really interesting, though, how when you go to talk about what matters in life, the first thing you think of is lots of money, cars, drugs, fame, rather than things like family and friends and community. Does the same phenomenon of misery and loneliness and depression exist to the same degree in people who are really, really well set with those things? What I'm saying is, when you think about what things should matter to a person and make their life worth living, why is your first idea riches and material objects rather than people? Is this sort of just a cynical apologetic tactic, or is this really where your priorities are?
Because they have come to a point of such height in the world. But yet, looking down at it all, they realize something that a man that wrote the book of Ecclesiastes realized, that all is vanity. In fact, he goes on and he says...
And here I'll just speed it up and show the quote, because this takes forever. Yeah, so the book of Ecclesiastes is a really odd choice to try to support this kind of mentality with. What you cite is from chapter 2, and that's basically the setup where the speaker, the teacher, whatever, I'll just say the writer, talks about how he spent all of this time and hard work purely dedicated to acquisitiveness, building all these great projects, houses, vineyards, gardens, piles of silver and gold, a big harem. He made himself so rich, he gave himself so much status, so much wealth, so much pleasure, and then he realized that none of it mattered to him. He realized, what have I done? I've wasted all this time on this pointless crap instead of actually enjoying my life, and what's going to happen is it's just going to get passed on to whoever inherits it when I die. Why did I pour all my time and energy and worry and care into this? The best thing a person can do is eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own work, which I take to mean the things you do themselves, not their end product. Taking pleasure in your life now, what you're actually doing for its own sake, rather than just being fixated on the end product, keeping yourself up every night, stressing yourself out over it rather than just embracing what is, enjoying what you're doing because of what it is. Easy for an ultra-rich guy to say, I understand, but still not a terrible philosophy. In chapter 3, he expands on this by saying that the fate of human beings is the same as the fate of the animals. We all die, humans don't have it any better. We all go to the same place. Who knows if the human spirit rises upward and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. For who can bring them to see what will happen after them? In chapter 4, he talks about the meaninglessness of envy, and then he talks about something else meaningless he saw, where there was a man who lived all on his own and worked all the time, and then looked at his wealth and realized, why am I working like this? There's nobody to work for. I'm taking away my ability to enjoy my own life. For who? This shit is all pointless. This too is meaningless, a miserable business. And it goes on to say, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. And notice what it doesn't say, something it says a lot throughout these chapters. It does not say this is meaningless. This is not vanity. In chapter 5, we see whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. And everyone comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they depart. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. In other words, that thing people tend to tell greedy people, you can't take it with you when you die. Pretty basic wisdom, really. Why waste your entire life just trying to acquire more and more and more and more? Obviously, it's different if you're poor and you have to do that just to survive. That's not in there, that's my addition, but I don't think it's inconsistent. But if you're already wealthy enough that you can enjoy your life, why make your life about nothing more than acquiring more stuff? That is an empty, meaningless, vain way to live. This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. And chapter 6 continues, I have seen another evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on mankind. God gives some people wealth, possessions, and honor so that they lack nothing their hearts desire, but God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers enjoy them instead. This is meaningless, a grievous evil. That, I think, is what you're talking about with unhappy, wealthy celebrities. A man may have 100 children and live many years, yet no matter how long he lives, if he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive proper burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. It comes without meaning, it departs in darkness, and in darkness its name is shrouded. Though it never saw the sun or knew anything, it has more rest than does that man, even if he lives 1,000 years twice over but fails to enjoy his prosperity. Do not all go to the same place? So again, the theme is the meaninglessness, as it's put in the NIV, or the vanity, as it's put in the King James Version, is primarily put on spending your life to acquire prosperity and status and then failing to enjoy it. In chapter 8, we have, there is something else meaningless that occurs on earth. The righteous who get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked who get what the righteous deserve. This too, I say, is meaningless. So I commend the enjoyment of life, because there's nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany them in their toil all the days of the life God has given them under the sun. In chapter 9, we see, so I reflected on all this, and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands, but no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. And a bit later, go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil, the latter of which you appear to do, but not the former. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead, where you're going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. So the point is, yeah, everything in Ecclesiastes is put in theistic terms, but it's got a fairly secular message, which is, eat, drink, and be merry, enjoy your life, enjoy your time with the people you love, form bonds with other people because it will be beneficial to you and them. Don't spend all your time striving to get more stuff, more status, and sacrificing the quality of your life in the process. I've read this book several times now, and I don't see how you could interpret it as some sort of a message about the hopelessness and emptiness and worthlessness of life, and how you should just give up in the absence of an afterlife. It's a message about how to live better in the here and now, to live well and appreciate appreciate what you have, but not to overdo it in either direction. Not to engage in rampant hedonism or endless toil, which actually are kind of combined into one thing here. And for the most part, not to worry about what comes after. And I agree with pretty much all of that. It's quite a positive, uplifting message even for an atheist. And it certainly does nothing to make me see a problem in living a life that doesn't last forever. It makes me see a problem in living life as if it will, or should, in the insistence that I must have everything or I have nothing.
But see, you don't have to be a celebrity or someone of great influence or wealth to recognize any of this.
Yeah, I know, it's a pretty common observation these days.
I remember my first day of work after I finished my studies. I did my first day of a 9-to-5 job. I finally got home that night, and I ended up feeling like, wow, is this gonna be my life? Like, is this it? Is this what life is about?
I understand the trials of the daily grind. Most people can manage to find something in their life that matters to them regardless. But what would have made it better for you? I mean, the only criterion you've presented is life lasting forever, so what if you had that daily grind, but instead of it ending after, a few decades, it just went on literally forever? Would it then be super meaningful? Because that's the other thing about Ecclesiastes. If you interpret it as saying absolutely everything you can do in life is meaningless, is vanity, well, that includes the rest of your life as well. The part that lasts forever. If pleasure and leisure and family and work and not work and whatever you have, whatever connections you enjoy with other people, if all of that is meaningless, how is it less meaningless if it lasts forever? 0 times infinity is still 0.
Working, a little bit of pleasure here and there, and then, we die, we pass away, and that's it?
Well, if you want to put it in the most uncharitable terms possible, and for some people it is. Some people have a shitty, horrible, pretty much meaningless life. They're exceptionally rare. These are not people who manage to fill their background with fancy lights and potted plants. But for you, no, there was more to it than that, and I know it. Just looking at you, I can tell. But again, it doesn't even matter what you have in your life, how many human connections you have, how much you enjoy your life, and how meaningful it feels to you. If you don't believe it lasts forever, you have to try your damnedest to suppress those feelings of meaningfulness, of importance, of purpose. You have to stomp that down as hard as you possibly can, because no, I'm not allowed to feel that. I don't live forever, so it can't matter. It can't, damn it! And yet, it does, and you betray this with your own story. You portray some things in life as a meaningless grind, spending all your time working a pointless job, and then finding something to give you a little bit of pleasure before you go to sleep and wake up in the morning and go back to the pointless job. It's very interesting that the example you chose is this very stereotypical idea of the mundane life. You didn't choose something like experiencing your child grab your finger for the first time, hugging your wife, seeing your parents after a prolonged absence, giving someone a birthday present that it turns out they really, really love. No, you didn't mention those kind of things and then say, is this all there is? No, it was a 9-to-5 wage slave job. Of course it was, because of course that feels meaningless, and it's an experience a lot of people have had and will share your feelings on. And this cherry-picked example makes it really easy for you to skip their rational mind and make them feel as if their entire life is shit, which appears to be considered some kind of a prerequisite for conversion. The promotion of depression and misery, encouraging people to only look at the worst aspects of their life and declare them meaningless without bothering to even mention the positive parts. It's painfully transparent.
See, either there is no God and nothing matters, or there is a God and nothing matters more than finding out who He is and knowing Him.
Yeah, but that still doesn't make your 9-to-5 wagey job any more meaningful. It doesn't change a thing about your actual life or the way you interpret it. All it does is get you checking the clock waiting for death. How fucking inspirational. Anyway, this video goes on for another 7 minutes, but that is enough for me on this. Kind of a shit meal of dumbness, but that's okay. I feel full. I'll probably be hungry again in an hour, but it's fine. So if you would, please do give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. If you like the channel, please consider supporting even with a couple bucks a month. It helps enormously, and thank you very much to everyone who's already made that choice. For early access, sign up to the email list at list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.